Have you ever heard a sound so low, so persistent, and so maddening that it turns your own home into a prison? This is not a ghost story or a figment of a tired mind. In the coastal town of Taos, New Mexico, during the early 1990s, hundreds of residents began reporting a phenomenon that defied all logic. It was a constant, low-frequency hum, like the distant idling of a massive diesel engine. For those who could hear it, life became a waking nightmare. It was not just an annoyance, it was a physical intrusion. People spoke of vibrating floors, sleepless nights, and a growing sense of dread that followed them into every room. Investigators arrived with sophisticated seismic equipment, expecting to find industrial machinery, hidden generators, or perhaps shifting tectonic plates deep beneath the desert floor. They found absolutely nothing. The silence of their instruments only deepened the mystery. Some believe the sound is a byproduct of unique geological formations echoing distant vibrations, while other theories suggest it is a bizarre, localized interaction between the human ear and the planet's own electromagnetic resonance. Yet, the most haunting aspect remains. Why could only a small percentage of the population hear it, while their neighbors stood in total, oblivious silence? The hum continues to linger in corners of the globe today. Is it a secret of the Earth itself, or are we simply hearing the world beginning to vibrate in a language we were never meant to understand? Could a single book hold the collective knowledge of a lost civilization, or is it merely an elaborate, centuries-old hoax designed to deceive the greatest minds in history? We find ourselves peering into the vellum pages of the Voynich manuscript, a small, unassuming volume that has baffled cryptographers, linguists, and historians for generations. It surfaced in the early 20th century, but its roots reach back to the 15th. It contains over 200 pages of illustrations depicting strange, unidentifiable flora, celestial charts that map no known sky, and ghostly, bathing figures huddled in interconnected pipe systems. What makes this relic truly chilling is the script. It is written in a language that appears fluid and structured, yet it matches no known alphabet or linguistic pattern on Earth. Some believe it to be a cipher of a forgotten tongue, while others argue it is an encoded alchemical treatise meant only for the initiated. The most haunting theory suggests that the text does not correspond to any human language at all, but rather a sequence of symbols meant to obscure a truth we are not meant to comprehend. Despite the relentless advancement of analytical methods, the Voynich manuscript refuses to yield a single coherent sentence. It sits in a vault, silent and mocking, leaving us to wonder. Is the key to this mystery buried in the soil of history, or is the book itself a mirror reflecting the boundaries of our own understanding? Deep within the impenetrable verdant shroud of the Amazon basin, where the sunlight barely kisses the damp earth, lies a secret that defies every established rule of archaeology. We are not talking about simple ruins or crumbling foundations, but a monolithic structure that seems to rise from the jungle floor like a dormant titan. Imagine a mountain range, yet upon closer inspection, you realize the slopes follow the anatomically perfect contours of a human face, carved with a precision that modern chisels would struggle to replicate. Local indigenous legends have long spoken of the stone giant, a guardian spirit frozen in prayer. But for decades, explorers dismissed these tales as mere folklore born of isolation and shadow. The mystery deepens when you consider the scale. The eyes alone span the width of a small river, and the stone itself is composed of a material foreign to the surrounding geological layers, almost as if it were transported from a distant land or forged by a process lost to time. Some researchers suggest this is a remnant of a forgotten civilization that mastered Earth shaping before the rise of the Inca, while others point to subtle, unexplained erosion patterns that hint at extreme antiquity. As you stand before the silent, stone-lidded stare of this forgotten behemoth, the air grows heavy with the weight of centuries. Why would a culture invest such colossal effort into a monument buried in such unforgiving terrain? There are no markings, no records, and no evidence of human habitation nearby. It sits in eternal, suffocating silence, watching a canopy that has seen empires rise and crumble into dust. Does the giant guard a forgotten tomb, or is it a warning left by a civilization that knew something we have long since erased from our collective memory? The truth remains buried under layers of moss and time, leaving us with only questions that echo through the humid, ancient trees. Have you ever looked into the sky and realized that what you are seeing has no business existing in our reality? In the remote, desolate Hessdalen Valley of Norway, The night air often grows heavy with a silence so profound it feels intentional, only to be shattered by an impossible dance of light. Since the early 80s, residents have watched as glowing orbs, bright flashes of white, and pulsating yellow streaks manifest out of thin air, hovering over the frozen landscape for minutes or sometimes hours at a time. These are not simple meteors or atmospheric flickers. They move with an unsettling, fluid intelligence, zigzagging across the valley floor or remaining perfectly suspended against the freezing wind. Science has attempted to peel back the curtain, suggesting the valley's unique geological composition, rich in copper and zinc, might act as a massive natural battery, ionizing the air during specific seismic shifts. Yet, even this theory falters when the lights perform maneuvers that defy the basic laws of fluid dynamics. Some witnesses describe the objects splitting into smaller spheres before merging back into a singular, blinding entity, as if testing the very fabric of the atmosphere. Are these merely ghosts of the Earth, venting long-dormant energy, or is the valley a thin place where something unseen observes us from the dark? Every night, the valley waits, and the lights return, watching us as closely as we watch them. The truth remains buried in the cold, unyielding silence of the mountains. Have you ever wondered if the earth beneath your feet was intended to be viewed by eyes that do not belong to this world? High upon the arid, sun-scorched plateaus of southern Peru, there lies a silent gallery of giants. Stretched across the desolate desert floor, the Nazca lines form an intricate web of geometry that defies the logic of the civilization that supposedly crafted them. We are talking about hundreds of massive figures, spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, and perfectly straight lines that traverse mountains and valleys as if the topography simply did not exist. How could a society existing nearly 2,000 years ago, lacking any known aerial vantage point, create geoglyphs of such mathematical precision that they only reveal their true, coherent shapes from thousands of feet in the air? Some researchers suggest these were elaborate astronomical calendars, serving as a map for the celestial movements of the stars. Others theorize that the lines were sacred processional paths for rituals intended to appease ancient gods. Yet, the mystery deepens when you step onto the ground. The lines are merely shallow trenches, barely inches deep, carved into the dark iron oxide gravel. They seem impossibly simple, yet their scale is overwhelming. Who were these architects of the dust, and for whom were they signaling? The silence of the desert keeps its secrets, leaving us to look toward the horizon, wondering if we are standing in the footprints of a history that humanity has long forgotten. Imagine holding a piece of parchment that defies the known timeline of human discovery. In 1929, hidden within the dusty shelves of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, researchers unearthed a fragment of a world map drawn by the Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis in 1513. At first glance, it appears to be a standard navigational chart of the 16th century, tracing the coastlines of Europe, Africa, and the Americas. But look closer, past the intricate inkwork and the ancient calligraphy. You will find something that makes historians shudder. The map depicts the coastline of Antarctica with staggering, impossible detail, not as a frozen, desolate wasteland encased in miles of ice, but as a clear, mountainous landmass devoid of its glacial mantle. How could a 16th century admiral accurately chart a continent that would not be officially discovered until 300 years later? More unsettlingly, how did he map the topography of a landmass that has been buried under ice for at least 6,000 years? Some scholars suggest that Reis simply combined ancient, lost maps from the Great Library of Alexandria, inherited from civilizations whose knowledge was swallowed by the tides of time. Others posit that the map reflects a sophisticated, forgotten understanding of global geography that challenges our entire narrative of human progress. Does this map represent a relic from an advanced, forgotten era, or is it a calculated forgery of geometry? We look at the frozen white expanse of the South Pole today, yet the parchment whispers that someone stood there, watching the green shores, long before history began to keep score. What forces a group of experienced mountaineers to slash their way out of a reinforced tent from the inside, fleeing into a sub-zero blizzard in nothing but their undergarments? The tragedy at the Dyatlov Pass remains one of the most haunting enigmas of the 20th century, a chilling puzzle that defies rational explanation. In February 1959, 9 hikers set out for the Ural Mountains, expecting a routine trek. Instead, they walked into a nightmare that would leave their bodies scattered across the snow, marked by bizarre physical trauma and inexplicable clues. Search parties eventually discovered the tent, ripped open, as if the occupants were desperate to escape something invisible, something that compelled them to leave behind their boots and essential gear in the face of certain death. As investigators reconstructed the scene, they found campfires built near a cedar tree, charred remains, and later, the bodies of the others deeper in the ravine. Some suggest a sudden, localized avalanche triggered a blind panic, yet this theory fails to account for the internal injuries, crushed ribs and fractured skulls, that resembled the force of a high-speed collision rather than a fall. Others point to reports of glowing orange orbs seen in the sky that night, leaving researchers to wonder if the group encountered a natural phenomenon so terrifying that it shattered their sanity before their lives. Even today, the wind howling through those frozen peaks seems to carry the echoes of that final, frantic hour, a silent testament to a terror we still cannot name. Imagine walking through the dense, suffocating undergrowth of the Amazon, pushing aside vines that feel like tangled veins of the earth, only to stumble upon something that should not exist. Deep in the remote reaches of the jungle, far from the reach of modern maps or known trade routes, lie the colossal stone remnants of a forgotten empire. These are not merely ruins. They are massive, geometrically perfect monoliths carved from a type of obsidian-flecked granite that is not native to the region. The precision of the joints is so absolute that you cannot slide a single hair between the stones, even after thousands of years of erosion and tectonic shifting. Who were these architects, and why did they leave behind structures that defy the known capabilities of ancient masonry? There is no sign of battle, no scattered debris of a common domestic life, and not a single inscription or hieroglyph to identify the builders. It is as if an entire civilization rose from the damp earth, engineered these gravity-defying marvels in perfect silence, and then simply evaporated into the humid mist. Some researchers suggest this was a culture that mastered acoustics, as the chambers within these megaliths produce impossible, haunting resonances when the wind catches them just right. Others whisper that the placement of these structures aligns perfectly with stars that shifted out of position millennia ago. We stand before these silent, gray sentinels today, feeling the weight of an intelligence that history chose to bury. As the shadows lengthen across the moss-covered walls, you cannot help but feel that you are being watched by the ghosts of a people who never left. They simply retreated into the quiet, impenetrable dark of the world we have yet to claim.